Hi. I'm not snowed in anymore. I hope none of you all are either. Oh, tomorrow I'll be back out on the road with a full tank of gas. And hey, Kelly. Oh, you hopped on tonight. Yay. Hey, Amy. Oh, Amy, I piqued your curiosity, huh? Well, I was kind of talking to Jim, and I asked him about a term that I was going to mention, and he said, I'm not really sure what that is. And so I kind of Googled it a little bit, and I couldn't really find it. Kelly might know, but I had a friend of quite a few years ago now that I have kind of lost touch with, so I couldn't reach out to her and ask her, but it's about, I think it's called quantum Christianity. But Jim said he'd never heard of it, and he knows pretty much all that stuff. And I couldn't really I didn't have time at the last minute to come up with that. So I'm not going to go quite that deep, Amy. But I think the discussion will still be interesting. Oh. Well, if you don't know me, I'm Mary Moss, and I am from Richmond, Virginia. And yes, we got a lot of snow. We were supposed to get 3 or 4 inch dusting. And yes, it's like Star Trek Catholics. I think so, Barbara. We ended up with 13 to 15 inches, depending on where you live in Richmond. So that was really interesting and a big shock. But I saw on my Facebook memories that we had snow on this day last year, too. So I guess it's not that early. It just seems a little bit early to be having snow in Virginia. But anyway, in my 9-to-5 life, I'm an office administrator for a company that manages a transportation project for the state of Virginia. And in my non-9-to-5 life, in my dream life, I'm an author, a writer, a poet, a speaker, blogger, anything to do with words and communication. And that's my passion. That's what feeds me. We didn't get the sleet last night, at least, Kelly, so we got off a little bit easier than you do. But anyway, so it's been kind of interesting. We were basically snowed in Saturday and Sunday. I had no intention of leaving the house. Hey, Jill, good to see you on. I don't do weather like that. And they were telling us not to leave the house, not to go out if we didn't have to. So I took that as my cue. I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of writing. I did a lot of thinking and a lot of praying. And it was really wonderful because I probably wouldn't have been intentional about doing those things had, it just been a regular, hey, Andrea, just been, a regular, had we gotten 3 or 4 inches, we have to go to the store, I have to run these errands, I have to do this, I have to do that. And so not really having that option, it made it for an ideal opportunity that I hadn't even planned, that I think was pretty impactful. And I'll kind of get into that a little bit, but I want to ask you all a question first. Let me know, have you ever had an experience where something out of the ordinary happened? Like maybe you were thinking about someone that you hadn't talked to in a really long time, and they called you, or you got a card from them, or a Facebook message from them, just out of the blue, and it really surprised you. Anybody? Has that ever happened to you? I'd love to know if it's just me. Seems like it's been happening a lot to me lately. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, Nicole, I think so. Sometimes I don't even think about it being a coincidence, but it does. Yeah, I think if we're open to it, it can happen. When we just put someone's name out there into the universe. Oh, thanks, Kelly. You do have good ESP. So, but also maybe like you're in a job and you feel like you're at a dead end and you don't really want to quit your job. You don't want to get a new job. And you're just kind of waffling back and forth and you feel a little bit stuck. And one day your boss comes to you and says, you know what, there's a new division opening up and we think you'd be great in this position. Or you got a call from a job that you applied for a year ago, and now all of a sudden they want to interview you. So when things like that happen, do you think they're just coincidence? There's a philosopher called Carl Jung, I think is how you say his name. It's spelled Jung, but it's pronounced Jung. He describes that as synchronicity, and I've got some notes because I don't want to sound too crazy, too much crazy talk here. He describes synchronicity as the underlying cosmic intelligence that synchronizes people, places, and events into a meaningful order. So that's kind of interesting. That, you know, the learned philosopher recognizes that there's some kind of force that orchestrates everything that happens, that puts some order into our lives. And I think we all recognize that happens. Something, and I think this has been happening a lot in my life right now. For a lot of my friends, he attributes this synchronicity to the flow of universal energy that can cause scientific breakthroughs, like Newton and the apple that fell to the earth. Well, this is really cool. I didn't know this. Ingvar Kamprad was the founder of IKEA, and guess how he came up with his idea for his modular furniture? He bought a coffee table and it didn't fit into his car. So he took the legs off and like light bulbs went off. You know, we always call that in our coaching group aha moments. The whole company was started on that. And it's because he was open to what the universe was telling him. You know, it was like, here's an idea, take this and run with it. And I've seen that in so many of my friends who have had ideas. Oh, I think I'm going to try to do this and see what happens. And it ends up being wildly successful. And it just takes off. And of course, it's not just a coincidence because, you know, you have to have the idea, but then you have to act on it and carry through. Non-cluttered minds. Yep, that's right. But there's a belief, obviously, that everything happens because of this synchronicity, and that things happen in the order that they're supposed to happen, at the time they're supposed to happen, and in the way they're supposed to happen. And so for me, that's kind of like, okay, but what about the things that happen that I don't want to happen, you know? So that question comes up for me. But I believe with this premise, I believe that there is a synchronicity to life. And I guess if you live long enough and if you go through enough things, you can start to see it if you look for it. And it's a little bit reassuring, really, because you know that if you stay open to it and if you respond to that and open your mind to it, that the universe is going to move along in an orderly fashion the way it's supposed to do. However, there are things that happen that we don't really understand, you know. The law of attraction says that we draw events and people into our lives. And there's something interesting about the law of attraction. It is unemotional. And it doesn't go, I don't think that's a very good idea. The law of attraction says, man, I hope I don't get a speeding ticket. I hope I don't get a speeding ticket. And sure enough, you get pulled over. Because what the law of attraction heard, what the universe heard, was speeding ticket. And it drew the speeding ticket to you. And if you don't believe that, try it sometime. Don't try that one. And that applies to just about every aspect of our lives. It really does. When I'm really in sync and when I'm really manifesting and believing and intentional, I can just say, oh, there we go, there we go, there we go. And when things happen that I don't want, Barb, you're well on your way. Keep working that jewelry business, girl. You're going to get there in no time. You've got the talent, that's for sure. But keep manifesting that money. And maybe, we don't understand. I think a lot of times we undermine the possibility. The universe wants to give us everything we want and everything we need. And sometimes we short circuit that by thinking that it's not happening in the time we had in mind, or that, well, this happened, so I'm not going to possibly be able to get what I want because this happened. It's exactly like speaking things into existence. So yeah, the law of attraction says that we draw events and people and things into our lives, but my faith tells me that God has planned out all of my days for me, and that he did that long before I was born. So how does that tie in to all the rest of it? My belief is that what all of these great philosophers are talking about, the universe, the synchronicity, it's all God. It's just a different way of explaining it, I think, that different people have. And, free will figures into it. That's right. None of it works if we don't go along with the program, so to speak. God wants us to be happy. He wants us to have everything that we need, everything that we want. But we have to help him. We can't be at odds and work against him. So, it's in a lot of the leadership trainings. They'll tell you, never turn an opportunity down because you never know. And they're kind of right. I have found that when I open myself up to opportunities that I really don't think are going to get me much, they usually end up paying off a lot more than I planned. Because the opportunity presents itself to me, I need to really consider, it's not about how you feel, it's about how you need to think about why that opportunity is in your life. That's right, we can sit back and wait for the magic wand, but that's not going to get us anywhere. So yeah, we need to help God give us everything we need. And just because we don't get it doesn't mean he's punishing us. This was something really cool that I read just today about how all of that works. That we're all collectively working to manifest the lives that we want to lead. So if you think about that, that's right, when I made you blog, Andrea, I was being obedient on your behalf. So we're all working to manifest the things that we want into our lives. So think about this. You and a total stranger could be walking around with similar intent and energies, attracting you into each other's reality. How unlikely is that, Yes, no, or not yet. That's right. To me, this also kind of explains a lot. We're collectively working together. Obviously, I'm manifesting what I want into my life. Kelly, you're manifesting what you want. Amy, you're manifesting what you want. It cannot be a coincidence that the three of us and so many others are all connected at the same time through the same vehicle. The internet, social coach, dream coach, whatever it might be. That cannot be a coincidence that we have come into each other's lives at various points. Kelly's been in my life almost 20 years. Amy, it's been about a year. Andrea, it's been about 10 years. But Barbara, it's been a year and a half, almost 2 years. Yes, Barbara, when we met, there was no reason for us to connect. We didn't see any reason to, we didn't have the same goals, the same dreams. But we knew that our energy could feed the other, and that a friendship would form that would then enable us together. We've collaborated, blessing some other dreamers. And that couldn't have happened had we not met in the way we met at the time we met. So that's right, it is a God thing. I really believe that we all are in each other's lives at the time that we're there and in the way that we're there for a very specific reason. And this is why I feel so at peace and so good. Yes, Andrea, he did. About being associated with our coach, my coach, John Eric, that I've talked about so much, because I just connected with him on so many levels. And the reason that I knew he was the real deal and that he was the right coach for me is because he believes that our dreams, my dreams, are not for me, they're for the world. And that really, if you think about it, that just ties in with all of this so well, and it really ties up the loose ends of it all. If I don't make my dream happen, if I don't share my dream with the world, I have no way of knowing who won't realize their dream because I didn't share mine. Somebody who reads my book after they have lost a loved one may find hope and healing and decide that they want to do that for a career. Someone who reads my first book, Woman at the Well, may go on. Shalina has shared that book with so many people, both of the books, with so many people, and neither she nor I have any way of knowing how we might have touched someone else's life that's going to impact their life, that's going to impact someone else's life, and on and on and on. And that's why we have to do what we are supposed to be doing. We have to realize our dreams because the world needs them, so that everyone can manifest in the world everything that is supposed to be in the world, so that, we all need each other, and we need each other in some very profound ways. That is our legacy, Kelly. And speaking of Kelly, I used an example of The Wonderful Life and George Bailey, and I know you all know this story. At one point, he decides that the world would be better off if he had never been born. And his angel Clarence goes through his whole life and shows him about, your brother would have drowned, and, all the negative ways that people's lives would have been impacted had he not been in their lives at the time that he was there in their lives. And it helps him to see that there is a purpose, even for a difficult time that he's going through at that moment, that he was put on the earth for a very specific reason, and that is to touch all the lives of everyone that he touched. And that's such a powerful, tangible image of how it's all supposed to work. We think that, our dreams aren't important. They don't matter. But they do, in ways that we can never understand. And maybe that makes them hard sometimes, because we don't know. We'll probably never know the biggest impact that we had on the world. But we have to keep doing it. We have to put ourselves out there, and we have to tell our story. We have to make our dreams come true. We just really, you just don't have a choice. We shouldn't anyway. So, there are so many, and also if things don't work out the way we want them to work out, we don't understand why all the time. And maybe it is our fault. Maybe we aren't thinking correctly, but maybe they didn't work out for us because they needed to work out for someone else in our lives. And we're going to have what we need. It's coming. It's coming at a later time. And maybe that is dependent on someone else doing what they're supposed to do. It is mind-blowing to think that we're all interconnected in such a powerful and really an intimate way that we don't think about. It is. It just blows my mind. it reminds me of the butterfly effect. And I know most of you have probably heard of that. It's the theory that, the butterfly flaps its wings and halfway around the world there's a typhoon, a tidal wave, because everything that we do, no matter how small or how insignificant, affects everything else in the universe. And that's, it's hard to imagine that we have that much power. And so what I got to thinking about all of that over the weekend was about how important it is for us to be aware and mindful and awake, not just walking through our lives, that, our decisions and our thoughts have intention and purpose. And we need to be intentional and purposeful with how we live. And that's, for me, it was very convicting. And I don't mean that in a guilty way. I mean convicting in that it's a reminder to me that I shouldn't be wasting my time not doing things. And that's not to say you can't be spontaneous. You can't say, oh, let's go to a movie, or let's, take a drive up to the mountains to look at the leaves and it wasn't planned. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, the decisions that we make. Do we get up when the alarm goes off or do we hit that snooze? That was a big change for me. And I try to get up without hitting that snooze alarm, unless I'm not feeling well or if I was up late for some reason. But I try to be really intentional about using that time to set my attitude and set my mind for the day. We have to be awake. We have to be aware of the world around us and aware of the importance and the power of every decision that we make. It is mind-boggling, and it's really kind of daunting and sobering. But I think for me, it's going to make me a better citizen of the world, a better member of the human race, I hope. And it's also, by being intentional and mindful this weekend, I wrote and wrote and wrote. I had these crazy deep ideas, and I haven't written it. It was 5 years before I wrote the book. And then even after the book, after I finished the book in August, I really, right after it came out, I was thinking that might have been all I had left. I was afraid. I just wasn't inspired. And I was really afraid, okay, that was it. That was my swan song. I've got nothing left. And that was just not true. I kept the discipline that I had developed in the Dream Coach program, the writing every day, even when I didn't feel like it, the getting up early to have the time with God, to have the time to set my, my day right. I was tired. I was physically tired, spiritually tired, emotionally tired. And I just, I wasn't hard on myself. I gave myself permission to continue the healing process. And it's been pretty marvelous. I'm like, I almost just want to write all the time. And that's how I used to be. Only now it's, I appreciate it more and I value it more. Rather than just something that, I'm just going to write a poem. When a poem comes to me, or a blog post, or a writing comes to me, I appreciate it now and I value it and I give attention to it, because I understand on a deeper level that is part of my story that I need to share with the world, because someone needs to hear that part of the story. So anyway, I've been thinking about what my word for 2019 is going to be. My word for this year, for 2018, was Renaissance. And I think it was so appropriate. It so perfectly describes this process that I just shared with you. peeling back so much and writing the book on my grief journey and figuring out how to travel into hope and healing. That was huge. And I've shared before that I was healed of so much more than my grief. There was a lot of healing that needed to happen in my life. Most of it was forgiving myself. And in so many ways in my life, there was a renaissance, a rebirth, and not recreating something, but pouring new life into it and rediscovering it in new ways. And I think I have my word for 2019, but I'm not quite ready to share it yet because I need to make sure it's the right one. But I'm pretty excited about the year ahead because I'm going to be spending a lot more time on this, thinking about this, and being intentional about the decisions that I make and the opportunities that I take advantage of, and the ways that I can love on the dreams of some of my friends, because I'm so excited for them to see some of their dreams starting to take life and take flight. So anyway, I say this almost every week. I hope that wasn't too crazy and rambling. You could tell I'm just really excited about this idea of the synchronicity and how we're all interconnected. And I just want to encourage you to go after your dream. Make your dream happen because it's important. And God gave you that dream for a reason. And that reason is something we may never understand. And even more so for that reason, we need to do it because God put it in our heart for a reason. Because someone in the world, or a lot of someones in the world, need our dream. So listen, I'm going to probably go to bed now. I have to go to work tomorrow. I had to take a shower and I'm going to have to get dressed, and I don't know how to do that after a few days of working from home and then being snowed in. So I hope you all have a great rest of the night. Have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.